Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on InspireSmall.biz. What's Indy's Trusted Servant? Well, that's me, Danny O'Malia. I'm Indy's Trusted Servant. I do customer service training and keynote speaking about customer service. It's all about the culture of the organization. Why are Chick-fil-A and Nordstrom and up until recently Southwest Airlines much better than everybody else in their industries? Well, they had great cultures and they managed to keep them, which is very hard to do. I learned all of that from the hand of the master, my late father, Joe O'Malia, back in the O'Malia food market days, and even before that, when Joe had a little grocery store in Broad Ripple where the Vanguard Bar is now on Guilford Avenue, which he eventually lost. And he came back 10 years later and he started O'Malia Food Markets successfully with 9 grocery stores eventually. And one of the things I learned from my dad was never, ever, ever give up. If you're interested in learning more about my customer service training or keynoting, give me a call at 317-413-9062. What's the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on InspireSmall.biz? I like to describe it as lively local small biz and community talk where you can feel the pulse of Indy. And today my guest is my relatively new friend, Tim Gerrity, and his business partner, Wesley Young. And basically, we're going to talk about, well, their company is, help me again?
Senior Solutions Consulting.
Senior Solutions Consulting, and basically we're going to talk about protecting the assets of seniors. But before we do that, let each of these guys introduce themselves. Tim Gerrity, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you came to Indiana, and yeah.
Well, born and raised in Chicago, moved out to Los Angeles where I was an educator for about 30 years, ran independent private schools, had a family a little bit later in life, and decided didn't really want to raise my kids in LA. You can do it, but we kind of looked and we found the Carmel area, settled in Westfield, and I'm raising my 2 daughters right here in the Indianapolis area and just love it.
That's great. So ironically, your business partner here, Wesley, was out in California for a while, and he ended up coming back here to get married and raise a family. Wesley, tell everybody about yourself.
Yeah, good morning. I grew up on the northwest side of Indianapolis, went to Pike High School, went to Ball State, got a film degree, and moved out to California to work in the movie business. And
did Dirty Harry movies.
Yeah, definitely a behind-the-scenes guy, or a camera guy, not in front of the camera. And then got married, came back to Indianapolis to raise a family and get a house and live my good Midwest values. And then started in the insurance business for about 10 years, and then found a calling to help seniors with asset protection and Medicaid and those kind of things.
And you came from a long line of insurance people here in Indianapolis with the name Young attached to it, right?
Yes, both sides of my family, Young and Thomas, both in the insurance business in Indianapolis, and did that for about 10 years, and then found a calling to move a little bit off of that into Medicaid and veterans benefits and asset protection, things like that.
Okay, so basically the subject today is protecting the assets of seniors specifically, but people in general. And how these guys do it. And so I'll turn it over to whichever guy wants to start first.
Wesley started this company 23 years ago. 23
years ago.
Sure. So when I was in the insurance business, I had an aunt and an uncle who got older and were failing and needed a little bit of help. And went and hired an elder law attorney to help with Medicaid benefits for assisted living and nursing home care. And when it was all done, I went back and had lunch with the attorney, and I said, I have a master's degree, and I could never have figured out all this Medicaid VA benefits. And he laughed. He goes, nobody figures this stuff out. Well, it's very complicated, even though it is available to all Hoosiers. And so at the end of the lunch, he said, well, why don't you come work for me? He seemed kind of passionate about this. So after about 10 years in the insurance business, I figured it was time to move on. So I went to work for an elder law attorney and handled Medicaid waiver and veterans benefits. So about 6 years into that stint, he kind of moved on, and I opened my own place, and now there's...
That's what this is.
9 of us now. We've been doing this for 23 years. So we do Medicaid waiver, which we can talk about in a second, and veterans benefits to help people with in-home care, assisted living, and nursing home benefits.
So Tim, how did you come to be with Wesley here?
I started out as a financial representative. I'm securities licensed, and I worked with Wesley and his partner, Matt Albion, doing a lot of the insurance things, helping clients with long-term care. And I really joined with Senior Solutions about 4 years ago.
After you moved here?
After I moved here.
So did you move here and not have a job at the time?
Correct.
Okay, but did you know what you wanted to do, that you wanted to get into helping seniors, or?
Yes, well, I have a financial background, and I wanted to help people, educate people about financial matters, because in this country we're really not well educated about financial matters. So as an educator, I wanted to do that, and then meeting Wesley and Matt, this just was perfect for me.
And I'll make the editorial comment that, as many of you know me, I'm 75 years old, so this is a fastball down the middle type of thing. I'm well aware of all these issues, but you, in meeting with Tim a few times over a period of a couple of years, it kind of crystallized to me how complicated this all is for folks. So let's talk about the specifics of protecting the assets of people as they get older, and the health care aspect of it, and the whole 9 yards. And so let's delve into that.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to pay for long-term care, right? There's long-term care insurance, which you have to get and qualify
Which
for.
I have.
Which I bought 6 months ago because I'm in my mid to late 50s. Good time to get it. And the saying with long-term care insurance is you kind of pay for it with your checkbook, but you buy it with your health, because if you don't have health, you can't get it. It's kind of like life insurance. When you're close to passing away, they don't want to sell it to you. So
Right. So if you're going to get it, you got to get it before you get sick.
exactly,
Right.
it's like a will. You only need it a few minutes before you pass away.
There you go.
Right. So the benefits here in Indiana. Everybody knows Medicaid pays for nursing home care, right? That's kind of common, right? The FSSA, or Family Social Services Administration, does food stamps to nursing homes. There's about 38 programs in there. I can name 3 or 4, but nursing home Medicaid is one we work with. And about 4 or 5 years ago, they decided that they would bring up a program called Medicaid waiver. And Medicaid waiver says, hey, nursing homes are expensive. It's $300 a day now, $9,000 a month. Why don't we expand the program? And the term waiver means waiving the requirement that you have to be in a nursing home to get Medicaid benefits. So they waive it to the fact that you can use Medicaid for in-home care or assisted living.
And a lot of people don't know that.
They don't know that. And it's so much cheaper to provide an in-home care assistant for a couple hours a day than it is to pay $9,000 for a nursing home. So Medicaid's coming out better, helping more people for the same dollar. So plus people want to age at home if they only have 1 issue or 2 issues they need help with that maybe says they can't stay home, but they don't want to go to a nursing home. So what we do most of is Medicaid waiver for assisted living. It helps cut the cost. In Indiana, if you have a studio apartment and assisted living, it's only $914 a month, all in. Deductibles, copays, meds, insurance costs, room, board, and all levels of care for $914. Anybody can afford that.
Okay.
And it's a godsend for widows and older single folks that don't have a lot of income, that need help but can't afford $4,500 a month for an assisted living. So the Medicaid waiver program is fantastic.
And my perception of Medicaid has always been it's just for the very poor people, right?
Right, it's for all Hoosiers. It's just a matter of when you qualify.
And you don't have to be very poor to get this.
You don't. There are asset requirements, but there are ways to protect assets. Our kind of rule of thumb is for a single person, we can protect half of what you have left. And that's at the time you need care.
If you wait that long.
If you wait till you're
Yeah.
coming out of rehab, today's Friday, maybe on Monday. Which is a lot of the calls we get. Or for a married couple, we can protect 100%.
Tim described those calls as hair on fire calls.
Hair on fire.
Yeah.
Well, usually it's the spouse, the wife, and the daughter or son. The husband's in the nursing home, or not nursing home, he's been to the hospital, he's in rehab, he comes out in a few days, they just got the sticker shock that it's $300 a day starting Monday. She says, we have $45,000. If he lives a couple years and dies on me, I'm broke. And here's a 79 or 80-year-old female sitting there thinking, if he lives 2 years and dies, I'm broke. And that's a real fear. And the kids can't afford to kick in the money. Most of the time they have kids in college. So yeah, it's really stressful. So at the end of the hour that we meet with them, we don't charge them, happy to talk to anybody, but at the end of the hour, we tell them, hey, we can protect your house, your car, your IRA, all the savings. We can protect all those things so that you can live at home. Even the incomes we can protect the majority of, so that we can get care for the spouse and not have the other spouse go down with the ship.
Okay, now, last week you and I met and we were talking about some specific situations, right?
Yeah.
Give some examples that people can hang their hat on here.
Well, if exactly what Wesley was saying, if somebody needed care and they had $300,000 and they're paying $7,500 a month for care, you do the math pretty quickly and you see that the family's going to run out of money, the other spouse, their retirement assets are going down. What are we going to do? And a lot of people have heard, well, to get on Medicaid, you have to spend down to $2,000. You can have a car, and you can have $10,000 of life insurance. That part is true, but there is some planning in protecting. I think, Wesley, you like to say about 50, 60% of that $300,000 can be protected for that client. And we use various techniques to do that. And we help people protect assets.
Didn't you tell me a story about a specific situation and a specific dollar amount, or am I dreaming that?
Might have. Wesley probably has lots of stories.
And when Tim says somebody has $300,000, usually our average client, well, when I started, they were 80 and their kids were 58. Now everybody's 100 and their kids are 80. and people have had that many years to acquire several bank accounts, CDs, a share of stock, a car or two, a rental house. So by the time they come to us and I say, well, what all do you have? They're really not sure. We've got, our hardest job is figuring out
putting
what
that
you
together.
have.
Yeah.
Is it an IRA? They'll say, I don't know, it's a CD. And I'm like, I know it's a CD in the bank. Is it an IRA or not an IRA? And a lot of times they look at me like, what do you mean? It's a CD. So at that point, and again, that's where Tim's strength helps our firm tremendously, is a lot of it's financial. Are things IRAs because they're taxable? Are things in a CD? Are things in an annuity? Are there mortgages on the house? They have 5 or 6 bank accounts. It's really difficult to come up with the number of dollars or value or assets that a family
that
has.
we need to protect.
Because I can't tell you anything until I kind of know that number. And a lot of times the kids will come in and say, Mom has 30 grand, and $300,000 later, they're like, oh, I didn't know. And all of a sudden the whole picture changes a little bit. So it's really a good time for the kids to get involved, because the last thing you want to do is have a parent pass away and not know where anything is.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we have a roadmap, but we consolidate. How many bank accounts do you need?
At this point, one, yeah.
Not 6.
Yeah.
And shares of stock and all of those kind of things. So Tim, with his financial background, there's several kinds of life insurance. Some has cash value, some doesn't. There's several types of investments and accounts. I think J.P. Morgan wins the prize with 56 pages per month in a statement. Well, Medicaid requires 4-month statements, so there's 224 pages that we have to pour through to figure out what this person has, and she's 86 and he's in the nursing home.
They're not up to it.
It's a lot. So it takes someone with Tim's training and eye for detail in the financial world, as well as Matt and myself. We're all licensed for long-term care. We're all licensed for life insurance. We're all licensed for annuities and things like that. And getting to that number of what you have is a challenge. And then from there, we can tell you what we can work on and how to do it. And of course, we have to surrender things, move things. It takes a lot of knowing the lingo, talking to the right person. But of course, you can't pick up the phone and call Prudential and say, hey, give me my dad's life insurance information. They're not going to talk to you. So now we have power of attorneys to deal with. So we have an attorney in our office.
Okay, yeah, see, it's complicated. It's complicated.
But the results are, if we can protect 100% for a married couple, or at least half for a single person, or go to zero, which is $2,000 zero, and not too much different, then yes, it's worth it. So
It's worth it.
So our files are about this thick by the time we're done, and our clients give us hugs, and it's really fulfilling and nice.
That's terrific. Now, we were talking last week, Tim, about Indiana's Medicaid program is a lot better than most, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, what Wesley was talking about was the Medicaid waiver, waiving the having to be in a nursing home. Not every state has that. Medicaid is federal government and state combined, so it's different in every state.
And in Indiana, it's more pro-family than a lot of states, right? Which gives us a bit of a head start when it comes to this.
It is, and Medicaid in Indiana, I've done Medicaid in 12 or 13 states. Here in Indiana, you can walk right into the Medicaid office and talk to someone. You can get them on the phone and talk to them. As opposed to Florida, where you have to call and leave a message and they might call you back. And when it's time sensitive, every day is $300, or every month is $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 or $9,000. That it's really important. So Indiana has made it as easy as I've found to work with them to get it done.
That's nice to know. That's not. Why would that be? Is that because the people that have run the state have done a better job with this, or?
I mean, Indiana has a budget surplus. How many other states do?
Well, that's true. That's true.
There's your answer.
So here's a question. So if I just started thinking about this today, and having been in the hospital for 31 days in September and October, it would be a little late in the game, hair on fire type situation. When should somebody start looking into this? Whether you're thinking about your parents or you are the parent, at what age should somebody go to somebody and say, boy, we got to get this thing, I got to get these 6 bank accounts, and 30's too young. What's the?
I would answer, one of my favorite sayings is, if you allocate nothing to your long-term care, you're allocating everything. So if you do nothing, you might have to spend every penny to protect yourself. So looking at like long-term care insurance, certainly in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, not too late. But once somebody comes, like I say, hair on fire, we can certainly help protect.
But is there a preferred age where somebody, by golly, should start getting all this stuff together?
Yes, I would say the early thing you need to do is get your legal docs in place. I'm not an attorney, but you need powers of attorney and wills and things like that. A trust. Talk to an attorney about a trust, whether it makes sense for you or not. Usually they don't help you until you pass away. They don't do a thing for you until you pass away, but they do good things when you've passed away. But power of attorney, will, living will, the heart-lung machine, those kind of documents, you need to talk to an attorney or somebody about getting those in place, because at certain points when you've lost cognitive ability, you can't do them. And like I just said earlier, if your wife has an IRA, you can't call up the company and say, tell me all about it. You're not her, right?
Right.
So you have to have the right documentation to do it. So those anytime, get those anytime that you need them, or now.
No matter what your age is now.
Right. I mean, I got them when I was 30, when I first had kids, because, it's important to have. Then if you get a diagnosis, as far as age, if you get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, we know where that's going, even though you're just a little forgetful. If you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's, and you're having a little tremor, but we know where it's going.
Yeah.
If you're 85 and your spouse passes away, well, your spouse probably did 50% of the things around the house, and you did 50%. Well, when that 50% goes away, usually it's bill paying or housekeeping up or
Cleaning.
mechanical things,
right,
or cleaning, or whatever it is. 50% of what just kept that marriage going just went away. So anytime there's an early diagnosis of something, that's a great time to do that, because we know in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years that Alzheimer's is going to lead to some kind of long-term care.
So the diagnosis of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or cancer or whatever it might
Just
be.
reaching age 85 when you might need care soon.
Sure, but it's not too late, even though it's hair on fire, but it's never too late
Medicaid
to come to
has
somebody and try to get some help.
Yeah,
right?
Medicaid has a 5-year look back, so we have to be very cognizant of that. You cannot sell your house for $1 and give away all your money and then apply for Medicaid tomorrow. They're smarter than that. So if you had a large amount of money and you give away or set it aside, a lot of times we have an attorney in our office set up a little special kind of trust to hold money so the kids aren't, 5 kids aren't getting all your money and you hope you get it back. If you move money and you wait 60 months and 1 day, those dollars are off the radar, never to be touched again, except for fun stuff, haircuts, cell phones, cable TV, things you want to spend it on. So if you had a stroke, you can't really plan 5 years ago, but if you get an early diagnosis or something, or you get to be about 85
That's a good time to do that.
Then if you start moving some excess stuff that you aren't using anyway, leave 25 or 50,000 in your bank account, because that buys you tires and groceries and things you need. But the excess stuff we can move and get the clock started. So yeah, 60 months and 1 day later, whatever you set aside is off the radar, and Medicaid doesn't care, because that's the rules they set, that you didn't do it in contemplation of Medicaid if you did it 60 months ago, including real estate and things like that. So yes, those are the times to do it, when you get up to higher age, or when there's a health issue that's going on. And then also I have the ability to talk to the client. If you wait too late,
Yeah.
I can't communicate with my client.
He or she has to be cognizant.
And the kids sometimes aren't too much further ahead of me as what's going on with the estate, because they live out of town, or they just don't know.
Yeah. So before I forget, and obviously there are a lot of places you can go to get this process started. But in case you'd like to talk to Tim or Wesley, how do we get a hold of you guys?
Give us a call.
Yeah. What's the phone number?
I usually use my cell, 317-379-2224, or you can certainly call the office.
Yeah, our office number is 317-863-0213, Senior Solutions Consulting. We're located across from the Keystone Fashion Mall up on 82nd and Keystone, which is pretty convenient to most parts of the city.
Right at the interstate. What's the website?
SeniorSolutionsConsulting.com.
If you want to just poke around and look around and then call, right?
Yeah, we don't charge to meet either, so just come on in, have a chat. We'll write it up on the board. We can zoom in kids from out of state. The more the better. The more heads at the table, the better, because you're going to have better questions and all of that. That's why we don't charge to meet. Just come in and let's see what we can do.
You just mentioned kids out of state, and you mentioned it before. I lost my brother. He was 71 years old, Alzheimer's. And he has 6 kids, 5 of them out of state. It never would have occurred to me that they could be zoomed into a meeting.
Absolutely.
And so the one kid that was here was dealing with everything, but that was a big burden, okay?
We can get the whole Brady Bunch on the screen, and everybody can ask their own questions, and everybody can be involved.
That's a great thought.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that.
And when you deal with Alzheimer's, dementia, any of those things, one person isn't diagnosed with that. The entire family is diagnosed with that, as you well know.
Yes, having just been through that.
And the other thing is most, and we kind of mention it on our website with a lot of myths and things, because neighbor Bob, who's a great plumber, always tells my clients the worst advice. Oh, you can't get mixed up in that. You don't want to do that Medicaid. You'll have to go to the worst part of town. There's brand new places in Carmel and that just opened up to take Medicaid. So
that's been the perception on Medicaid.
Absolutely. Medicaid, Medicare is the health insurance you get at 65. Medicaid is something you add to it to pick up additional benefits. And Medicaid is for every Hoosier. Everybody says, I make too much money to qualify. You don't. There's easy workarounds for any amount of income.
See,
assets can be protected, so don't let somebody disqualify you or disqualify yourself before you come find out, because we're really good at what we do. There's 9 of us in the office. We're good at what we do, but once you've spent all your money, I can't get it back.
Absolutely.
So please come in and find out ahead of time.
If you don't call these guys, call somebody, okay? Wesley Young, Tim Gerrity, thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you, Danny.
Next week, Jim Riley with the Actors Theater of Indiana. They're up in the Palladium area in the Tarkington Theater building. And boy, they got a show coming up in June that you got to hear about. So tune in to inspiresmall.biz every Monday at 3 o'clock for lively local small biz and community talk. See you next week.